nobody to. Personally, I didn't have any big expectations about this. All I wanted is just to have a good time. But after watching it, man, this film is repetitive. What I mean by that is right from the start, there are a lot of repetition of the scenes from the first movie, particularly the morning routine parts of the first film is also present here. Now, that isn't to say that this film really is copy-paste version of the first film all over again. No. The plot is different. The plot this time around is that Hutch and his family is currently having a good time at an amusement park. And they have a good time, they have laughs and everything, they play games and all that. But at some point, the dirty cops come. There is a lot of dirty cops in this small town, and they picked up the wrong fight with the wrong person. That is the plot for the second film. Now, the director is different. This time around, Timo Cahyanto directed this film, and well, to some degree it works, but I feel like his approach of action in this film is kind of whimsical. I know that he did that on purpose, but in the first film, the action sequences have a lot of weight, There is, of course, a lot of serious bits into the action sequences from the first film, but when you move on to the second film, like I said, they kind of played the action sequences a little bit too whimsical this time around. I know it may cause you to laugh or, at least chuckle a little bit, but I find it kind of, out of place because I really like the action approach of the first film, where everything is mostly serious because the narrative in the first film was also serious. I know there were a little bit of a comedic parts here and there, but mostly the first film was super serious, and you feel the tension right from the start in that first film. And with the second film though, they played the action sequences a little too whimsical, and at times the film almost crossed the line to be a straightforward comedy movie. And when it does become a comedy movie at some parts, the jokes it's kind of a hit or miss situation, because then again, in my mind, this is an action film. You can have laughs in some parts, but when you're trying to do a lot of comedy in an action film that doesn't flow well with comedy, especially when you compare this to the first film where everything was super serious, I feel like the tonal changes is kind of hit or miss for me. Sometimes it does work, but mostly there are moments where the comedy felt a little bit shoehorned in. Now, there is another problem that I have with this film. You see, when it's all around Hutch, kicking ass with the dirty cops in the small town, I'm kind of okay, It's an amusement park, and when you look at the plot, it's very similar to Beverly Hills Cop 3, perhaps. I believe it is the third film. And when it's all Hutch kicking ass, it's okay, I actually enjoyed that. But for some reason, you got to throw in Sharon Stone as the big bad. This villain did not need to be in the movie, because if you remove her character and you instead focus on Hutch versus this gang of corrupt cops, it would have been enough, for a simple movie with a simple premise like this. But when you add the big bad Sharon Stone, I feel like her performance also doesn't help, because her character here is just not menacing at all. When I see her character, I don't know what her goals are. What is she trying to be? A cartoonish villain? Well, maybe, but again, her character does feel out of place, So, Nobody 2 is, the way I put it, is a simple film that doesn't really need much of attention, and you can still enjoy it, with the action sequences, even though the action sequences doesn't carry as much weight as the first film. I still found it quite entertaining. My bigger negative is the family dynamic. I know the family dynamic is essential to the story and Hutch as a character, but there are too many arguments, especially between Hutch and his wife. There are like 4 or 5 arguments throughout the movie, and it feels quite annoying. So, if you're here for the action, yes, you will get it, but for my preference, I like the action approach better in the first one, because like I said before, the second one takes it a little bit too whimsical. But if you still enjoy it, well, that's fine. The best way that I can describe this film is, if this film came out around the 90s, it would have been awesome. Audience would clap and cheer, and it's the right movie at the right time. But when you release a movie like this with this simple premise, kicking ass in an amusement park, if you release this kind of movie in 2025, it feels quite outdated, to be honest. So, I will give Nobody 2 a 6 out of 10. And if you have seen Nobody 2, tell me, what are the best moments throughout this film? And do you find any funny sequences in this film? Or do you think the whimsical approach of the action works or not? Or do you prefer the approach of the first film where everything is super serious? Tell me everything what you think down below, and see you on the next video.